Yeah, standard welding rod. Go to B&Q, home base, you name it, you can go and buy these standard welding rods. Okay, any information you need is written on the box. The size of the rod, thickness, amps being the power required. Thicker the metal, the higher the amps. And that's what they look like. Standard welding rod. Okay. They have some information on them, stamped on when they're made. The important part is the flux is in one piece. No cracks, not chipped off. If it chips off, they crack. If you bend this rod, it will crack off. You do not want that. The better the rod, the better the weld. They're hydroscopic, which means that if you leave them out, any moisture in the air just gets sucked into the flux and the flux falls off. Which is why these rods are kept in a heated cabinet, just to keep the moisture down. That's the easy bit. We're going to weld that piece of steel 90 degrees to the piece of steel, 70 degrees in the direction of travel. So if you're right-handed, you're going to the right. If you're left-handed, you go to the left. Either way, perfectly happy. This is a 2.5mm rod, that bit. The rod down the middle is 2.5mm. The gap for your arc there is 2.5mm. If it was a 3.2mm rod, which is the other common rod we use, it would be 3.2mm. Sounds easy. Direction of travel, 90 degrees, 2.5mm, and then you've got speed as well. And the speed is dictated by the thickness of the metal and what you are doing. So I can't stand here and say, and you go at this speed, because it will vary. It is infinite. Without doing anything to the steel, you can weld up to 6mm with this rod, or a 3.2. Above 6mm, you have to chamfer the edges so that you're below 6mm of your welding thickness. Up to 2mm, you don't need a gap. But when you start talking about gaps, you need 1/3 of the thickness of the metal, not the rod, the metal. So if it was a 6mm piece of steel, it's a 2mm gap. 3mm piece of steel, 1mm gap. We use 6mm steel because it's much easier for me to explain to students that 6mm equals 2mm gap. Just looking at the rods quickly again. Standard welding rod. You will come across that if you walk into this welding workshop. The second year students will start to hard face. Hard facing rod. Hard facing is when you put some weld onto a wearing implement, plough point, teeth on a digger bucket. It protects them, makes them last a bit longer. We also have specialised aluminium rods, and they are very, very different and very, very specialised, but you can only use those rods with an inverter welder.